105.5 WDHA here on the Morning Jolt. He has been a frequent guest. It's our pleasure to welcome back Rob Paulsen to WDHA. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Hello, Jim. As I said earlier, thank you for lowering your standards. It's a pleasure to be here, my friend. As people at my age get to say, it's a pleasure to be anywhere. So I'm grateful.
Rob, of course, part of the soundtrack to your life, if you will, the voice of so many different characters, and coming into the area in January on the 22nd at the Wellmont Theater when he brings Animaniacs live in concert to the Wellmont in Montclair. I wanted to do something with you, and we're doing this on video as well as audio this morning, so you can see me, but you did something very recently, maybe within the last year, where you improvised 12 new cartoon voices, just having seen a picture that was put up in front of you. So if you were to look at my face, what do you think I would sound like?
I would say, first of all, you have these dulcet tones, and I would say, hey, it's, good. This is the Rock of New Jersey. It's Jim Monaghan. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Or the Mighty 690, whatever your call numbers are. But, mind you, I'm an older guy. So all the boss jocks that I used to listen to when I was a kid, and I'm obviously being facetious, but all of them had that, that really big kind of puker sound. Everybody was, hey, it's the Mighty 690. And when they would do like a news break, it would be, tragedy in Madison today. The 12-year-old was strained through the grill of a 1968 Buick. I mean, it couldn't just be reporting the news. It was all drama and all big and all that. But you are far classier than that, my friend.
Yeah, you don't listen to me on a daily basis, Rob. That's obvious. Where do all of the voices come from? How do you keep them straight?
They come from various different places. I'm 65 years old, and I've been doing this a long time, and I kind of have a mental Rolodex of these voices I hear from, whether it be relatives, friends, people I hear in the grocery store. I don't care. TV, I rip them off from other people, just like folks do in our business. I do bad impressions of other people doing good impressions. But ultimately, Jim, I think like any other acting gig, it's just that. It's about acting. It is to say that we kind of are sponges. That is a hackneyed phrase, but it's true. We kind of absorb all this seemingly useless information around me. And then all of a sudden I'll be at Warner Brothers and somebody says, hey, I've got this critter in here, this character who's a bad guy, and it's a python, and we're going to call him Monty the Python. You see what I'm doing there and all of that and blah, blah, blah. And one thing leads to another, and you just throw stuff against the wall. And when you're surrounded by world-class talent, and I'm dead serious, people like Billy West and Maurice LaMarche and Dan Castellaneta, Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, people like that who just by waking up in the morning and ordering a cup of coffee do something creative. It's pretty difficult not to get good at it. So the trick is finding a way to get in with these people. And if you're not able to get good at this, being surrounded by people like that, then you're in the wrong gig, But it is a remarkably wonderful way to make my way through the world. I've been so incredibly fortunate. And the truth is I get to develop relationships along the way, yourself included. I get a chance to come back and talk with people when something else pops up. People like you are so very kind to have me on and chat about it. And it turns out that kids of all ages, as they say, really dig cartoons. I mean, we're back doing Animaniacs again with the King of Hollywood. And I think Mr. Spielberg is 74 years old, and it was his call to do it. And when we do our Animaniacs in concert show, we see people of that age. We see people older than I and down around 8 or 9 and 10 years old. It's an enormous fan base who loves cartoons, and it's a pleasure to be part of it.
Well, especially I think coming out of a pandemic where we've been just in this lockdown, you look for a comfort zone. And for so many of us, of whatever age we happen to be, those cartoons bring back these wonderful memories of our childhood.
Exactly right. And I remember saying last year at the end of 2020, when Animaniacs was fixing to drop their first 13 episodes of the new version on Hulu. And having gone through this with the rest of the world, I think a lot of the way we move through this depends on how we contextualize it. And by that, I mean, in my gig, I mean, you and I are in the same business. Our job is ostensibly to make people happy, joyful, music, comedy, current events, and try to spin them as joyfully as we can. And it turns out that people need us, and they really do. They need us to find ways to sort of spin some joy into an impossibly difficult circumstance that nobody in the world in our lifetimes have ever experienced. So when these episodes were getting ready to drop, I thought, God, we've been given this whole blank ton of stinky, sour lemons. And it is people like you and I who have the incredibly lovely gig of trying to make a whole bunch of Acme lemonade, emanating the Warner Brothers water tower. And it turns out that we're right. And they're looking for some reason to get out. And if they can do it with their family, they can share with their kids, with their older kids, with their grandkids, with their grandparents, then you're able to really touch on a lot of folks, and it's worth it.
Rob Paulsen's my guest this morning here at 105.5 WDHA on the Morning Jolt. Animaniacs live in concert coming to the Wellmont Theater in Montclair on January 22nd. How big a part of what you do is improvisation, Rob?
It's a very big part. That's a great question. Again, I got to learn at the feet or the voices of the master. Phil Hartman was a dear friend and, of course, a world-class improviser. The people in the Groundlings, Lorraine Newman, Paul, I'm sorry, Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens. Yeah, people who are just impossibly gifted improvisers. The scripts are always really solid, especially on a big show like Pinky and the Brain or Rick and Morty, shows that are so beautifully written. But when you're at a session, improv really is a big part of the show. And it's probably not dissimilar to what you do. I mean, when you, especially if you have guests on, you have people calling in. There are shows that are, virtually every major city in the town has a morning zoo show, and they have 2 or 3 people on board who are able to improvise, or they do impressions, or whoever the president is. And it's no different in the animation gig, because often characters are created on the spot, which end up being written into the show that no one knew were going to be important. And I have probably 2 or 3 over my career that have started out as a one-off, and the producer would say, "Hey, who's got something for this talking critter?" And we all have something. And sometimes I hit the little mini lottery and the thing gets written into 10 or 15 more episodes. Sometimes a show will spin off with a character that was improvised 2 years before, and the character has its own show. I did a character for years on a show called Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, whose name is Carl Weezer, and he's just this weird, chubby little guy who's just pretty much a loser, but people love him. And Nickelodeon spun it off into its own show, and it was a remarkable experience to get 2 cracks at that guy. So improv's a big part of it, and it's also so much fun because it's kind of like tightrope walking without the danger. The only thing you're risking is your self-respect and trust me, I lost mine years ago because I'm in Hollywood. So it's an awful lot of fun to do improv.
Rob Paulsen, my guest here at 105.5 WDHA. Animaniacs live in concert January 22nd at the Wellmont in Montclair. On your Twitter page, you have a link to bootobullying.org. Tell us about that.
Thank you so much. Boo to Bullying is exactly what the name implies. My friend Dimitri Halkitis out here in Palm Springs put together a wonderful grassroots organization, an anti-bullying organization, which is all about getting them while they're young. And Dimitri and his crew put together wonderful presentations to take to grade schools and help kids who are being bullied, help kids who are would-be bullies, and help get kids back on the right path who are already bullying. We know that parents and children have to deal with this. We all have to deal with bullying. You told me, you coach baseball. That's just part of the deal. And We all know that it's something we prefer not to deal with, but it just is human nature. I am certainly not an expert on bullying, but having been a parent, I'm an expert on having a kid who got bullied a little bit. And, we were able to stop him from trying to respond in a way that would be, basically him doing his own bullying to try to be like everybody else. And so I am so grateful to be one of the spokesmen for Boo to Bullying. And if people want to check out more about their programs, they're based in Palm Springs, but they're a grassroots outfit that can give you a lot of information about how to put together something like this in your own town or your own grade school. So just go to bootobullying.org, BOO, the number 2, bullying.org. And thank you so much for bringing that up. I really appreciate it.
No, you're very welcome. I think it's extremely important. Other websites, wellmonttheater.com or Animaniacs Live. Rob Paulsen, January 22nd at the Wellmont with Animaniacs live in concert. And you can find Rob on Twitter at Yakko Pinky. Rob, thank you so much for your time this morning here on DHA. Look forward to seeing you in January.
Hey, it's my great pleasure, Jim. I'll see you back on the backside after we get back on a big 60-second delay. Blah, 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 blah.
I'm sorry. I got to stop that nonsense. All right, pal. Thank you, my friend.